What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, joined with Harrison Graham, our host here of our Bears Now channel. And we're going to talk about three topics today. We're going to talk about that bombshell article with Caleb Williams, what's going on in Chicago, what he specifically had to say about the Vikings, talk about the Week 1 matchup, Vikings-Bears, Monday night in Chicago, and then also just wrap it up talking about the NFC North. But Harry, welcome in. Honored to have you here.
Yeah, appreciate it. We talk about it all the time in the office. I think it's the most fun division in football now. It's always been known as like this just gritty kind of division, and that still exists, but I think it's become more fun with skill talent and just there's always good offseason narratives. 3-time offseason champs. I know you've probably made that joke before, but yeah, it's never a dull moment, especially with the Bears, and we got more of that yesterday. So excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so the kind of bombshell article that ESPN dropped, previewing a book by Seth Wickersham, talking about a bunch of quarterbacks, but specifically Caleb Williams, and kind of what was going on in the pre-draft process with him and his dad. And Harry, if you kind of wanted to set the scene, you know better about this than anybody.
Yeah, so I think it's important to provide background on Wickersham first. So he's a reporter, but really more of an author. Like a lot of the reporting he does ends up turning into books. Like he wrote the Belichick, Patriots, Brady dynasty book, and then how that all ended and all of that. He does a lot of deep investigative journalism stuff. So a lot of this reporting is from about like 15 months ago.
Yeah.
Like starting around the combine last year. And, you know, just cliff notes, he basically just got a lot of quotes primarily from Carl Williams, Caleb's dad. There's a couple of Caleb quotes in there, but I think they're through Carl.
Yeah.
I think he was clearly the source of this. And we heard whispers last year, like Carl's kind of a helicopter dad.
Yep.
He's very passionate about his son. He wants the best for his son, but he kind of has out there ideas, right? And I think we saw that with this reporting, right? I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, like, I don't know about the Bears. They don't have a good history offensively developing quarterbacks, which all totally valid.
Very true.
Like, there's no, like, I would say if I had to percentage it, about 75% of Carl's concerns and Caleb's concerns, I'm like, am I supposed to be upset about that?
And especially after how it played out year one. I mean,
yeah,
they were 100% correct.
The proof was in the pudding.
Thoughts.
So Carl concerned about Bears QB history. Caleb concerned about Shane Waldron. Check.
Yep. 100%.
Caleb also, and I think this is where it gets interesting for your show, Vikings Now, and we kind of heard like deep whispers of this, but it's proof now is that he and Kevin O'Connell met at the Combine and apparently hit it off.
Yeah.
There was a warm embrace after one of the games last year. I know KOC had a really glowing comment about him after the comeback game, and then the Vikings won in overtime and talked about how it's going to be a pain in the ass to face him twice a year, yada, yada, yada. So there was all that. But Caleb enjoyed the visit so much that he told his dad, we got to play for the Vikings.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go to Minnesota, which, again, if you're a Bears fan, yeah, there's a small party of like, that kind of sucks, a division rival. But, and I've made this point, if you're being fair about the situation, it's like, why wouldn't he want to go to Minnesota? He meets with Kevin O'Connell and Matt Eberflus. Who do you think he's going to be more attracted to in terms of his development of becoming a great player in the NFL? The guy who's the young, up-and-comer, energetic, communicative QB whisperer, or Matt Eberflus, who's kind of a boomer, boring, and trying to win games 17-12 like it's the 1985 Bears? I would probably want to play for Kevin O'Connell as well.
Yeah, and I know like a bunch of Vikings, other YouTubers, guys on Twitter are just running with that headline where it's like, Caleb Williams, I want to play for the Vikings.
This is a headline story, by the way.
It is a very headline story. When you really dive into the article, it makes a lot of sense, especially from Caleb Williams and his father's side. But just the fact that he came out and said, I want to play for the Vikings, I bet you if you asked all 6 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round, name your top 3 coaches you want to play for, I bet you all of them would have said Kevin O'Connell coming off that season when it was like Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall. He was getting the most out of those guys. Kirk had career years. And you also just look at the roster. You see Jefferson and Addison. I don't think it's that crazy that that's coming out where it's like, oh, I want to play for the Vikings. Yeah, I would too if I was a quarterback.
Especially when you consider like the teams that actually needed a quarterback, right? The Bears, horrible QB history. good receivers. They had DJ. They signed Keenan. There was a lot of buzz. They were going to draft a receiver to pair with the quarterback. They always did that with Rome.
Yep.
But a lot of question marks in the coaching staff. That played out. Washington, complete unknown. Obviously, it worked out, but that was a complete unknown. So I think you just go down the line. Patriots, Gerard Mayo.
Absolutely
like
not.
you look at it all and you're like, oh, Minnesota, they're drafting a little later, but okay, Kirk had a career years under this guy. Yeah, that's a pretty intriguing thing that their head coach is like 38 years old, a former NFL quarterback, and has already shown his chops in this league. So again, from a Bears standpoint, I don't see why you would be too upset about it. Like a small part, I get it, division rival, but you also have to remember, this is before he's even been drafted.
Yeah. And also at the end of that article, Caleb, like he was saying, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm going to change, what's been going on in Chicago. So like clearly he is fully invested there. Just a little interesting that this is coming out right after it was announced. Vikings, Bears, Monday night. You got the J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams, kind of storyline going on.
The timing sucks from a Bears standpoint because, look, Bears fans, and I'm guilty of this, we always get hyped in the offseason, but I do think there's like valid reasons this offseason.
Yes,
you get the hottest offensive coach in the last couple cycles on board, and you pay him big money, which is not something the Bears have done.
No.
You go get a 4-time All-Pro in Joe Thuney, along with the best center on the market, Drew Dahlman. You bring in Jonah Jackson, who, if healthy, should at least be an upgrade over the Nate Davis, Matt Pryor debacle last year. You then draft a tight end in the first round to get him another weapon in Colston Loveland. You go full luxury pick with Luther Burke. Like, they've operated. We can rip the Bears historically, and for good reason. I don't know that they could have done much more this offseason to build and commit to Caleb Williams. So I think the timing of this sucks because I bet when this came out, even Caleb probably saw this was like, God, I knew this was coming. But the vibes are good right now. So I'm hoping that this is just like a miniature bump in the road. He'll probably have to address it at OTAs, and then we could just move past it. But it's one of those situations, if he struggles, if it doesn't work out, this is just going to make people even throw more kind of heat at Caleb. And listen, that's part of the deal, right? Like, you're the number one pick. It's come out publicly. Like, you guys didn't have to talk to Wickersham about this book and reveal this information. So, the pressure's on. I said it after the draft that Caleb Williams, among young players, is probably under more pressure than anyone else this season. JJ's probably up there as well. We can talk about that. But this just adds to that. But if he plays well, they win, it works, no one's going to care. So we just got to see how this all plays out.
And I think we kind of shift to, like, just the pressure rankings. If you had to rank, like, every coach, every player heading in the next season, who is under the most pressure, you can make an argument. It's Caleb Williams, one. I think you would have the nod on J.J. McCarthy just because he was the number one overall pick. He's supposed to be a generational, talent. And then McCarthy's probably number two because both of those offenses, it all comes down to the quarterback. You believe in Ben Johnson. You believe in Kevin O'Connell. You got great weapons. You got much improved offensive line play from both units and should be able to run the ball. I mean, it really just comes down to those two. And I'm sure Bears fans and Vikings fans were all in the same boat. We were both saying, man, if Caleb Williams pops, if J.J. McCarthy pops, if they have a Jaden Daniels-esque first year starting, this is a double-digit win team.
Yeah, I mean, no question about it. The JJ thing's almost unfair because he hasn't played a snap yet, but they won 14 games last year with Sam Darnold. So if they're not at least a playoff team, regardless of the context, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. So, I still think I would advise, like, let's give that situation some time. He's not probably going to hit the ground running from snap one. So that's a lot of pressure. But I think Caleb, look, like, it's year two now. They've loaded up around you. Doesn't mean you have to be a top 5 quarterback this year, but by the end of this season, like, the Bears got to feel pretty good about they have a long-term top 10 guy in this league. And if they don't, that's not going to be great. I'm not saying they'd pivot after year two, but, like, then next year becomes a true make or break. And ideally you avoid that. Ideally you're going into next year and like, okay, if anything, we're thinking extension after next year, not like, is he going to click in year 3 or are we back to the drawing board? So I think the pressure on Caleb is higher. I think it should be higher. Also just Chicago, like they've never had a quarterback. Could he
never
be
had
the
a
quarterback?
4,000-yard passer, all that.
Yeah. So, but I do think the pressure's high on both. If you get outside of those two, I think you'd have to look back at like Josh and Lamar because they haven't gotten to a Super Bowl yet. I think if you're actually being fair across the board, those two would be the highest because it's like they haven't been to a Super Bowl. You're year 6, 7, 8
generational
at this point.
Guys, all-time quarterbacks
knocking on the door. Like if Caleb and JJ underperform a little this year, it's not like it's the end of the world necessarily. If Lamar and Josh a few more years go by and they still can't get to a Super Bowl, it's like, is it ever going to happen? So, but yeah, that's why I said among the young players, I think spotlight's on Caleb and JJ pretty high this year.
And plus with having Jaden Daniels, like him having a great year one, like that puts pressure on both those guys. Because I will say, I think we're going to look back at last year's draft class at the quarterback position and say, oh, you got 5 to 6 legit NFL guys who will probably be starters for 10-plus years. Hopefully, I mean, all those teams are probably thinking that. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think you would say – usually after 1 year, there's at least like I don't know about that one. Like Bryce Young, now he kind of bounced back in year 2. He's in the officially we'll see category. But like through 1 year, it was like I'm not calling him a bust because it's unfair through 1 year, but – if I had to bet bust or hit, I would bet bust.
Yeah.
I don't think you would bet bust on any of the 6 at this point. We haven't seen JJ play, so that would be unfair to say. Penix didn't play that much. I thought he flashed, though.
Yeah.
And Drake May flashed as well. So, and obviously, Jaden had a special year. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if it was 6 for 6, but 4 or 5, it seems like there's a real chance there.
And also, we've talked about this on the channel all the time. It's like support systems matter so much. Like, that article comes out, all the concerns Caleb and his dad had about the Bears organization. They kind of got rid of all of those this offseason. Like, you got Ben Johnson, all the weapons like you were talking about. So all of these quarterbacks are set up to succeed.
It's kind of funny, right? How, like, in the article, Bears declined to comment, which I think is actually a good move. Like, we're focused on the here and now. We're not commenting 100%. On a story from over a year ago. But they kind of did comment by firing a head coach for the first time ever midseason, by firing Shane Waldron midway through a season. Like they kind of, and then by doing what they did this offseason, rebuild the offensive line, hire an offensive coach. So they didn't comment, but they kind of did with their actions. They kind of confirmed what the concerns were from the Williams family. So
one more thing I want to get your thoughts on, then we'll pivot to Monday night, talk about that week 1 game. The whole story about Caleb Williams. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but apparently he had to watch film by himself. It is one of those things you read, and I immediately think there is no possible way this could be true. But this was reported. I mean, you talked about this a couple months ago. Even.
Yeah, Taylor Dahl. She does a Bears podcast. She also works down in Florida. She covers the Jags as well. She's a Bears fan, but works in Jacksonville. It's a long story, but she had this like 4 months ago. I did a video on it. I feel like there's got to be some more context there. Like, I can't imagine this is like hey, Shane, can you come watch film with me? No, but but I also do think there was some negligence. Like, Caleb's in the building trying to do some extra film prep, and like, where's the staff to like point him in the right direction, that type of thing. So I think when it's all said and done, it doesn't take a genius to watch some of those games play out the way they did and be like, this is a really poorly coached team.
Yeah,
it just was. I mean, Eberflus, I think he's a good defensive coach, completely in over his head as a head coach. And Waldron, while I think at times has some okay designs, and even at times last year, there were a couple games I was like, hey, he's kind of in his bag a little bit here. I don't think he can connect to players at all.
No.
Go watch the Jackson Smith and Jigba clip from about a year and a half ago. He is just not – I don't think he's a player's coach. Like, I think the Bears have brought in a lot of players coaches. You bring in Antoine Randall. The guy played in the league for a long time. Eric Bieniemy played in the league, running backs coach for a long time. JT Barrett, a big-time college football player. So I think the Bears have done a good job of like, okay, let's bring in a staff of established people who have coached. Yes, first-time head coach, but we know what he's about offensively, and some experienced position coaches. I think they've done a good job of that.
Yeah, so we can segue into Monday night. Schedule got released this past Wednesday, and Vikings fans are fired up for the Monday night game in Chicago. Obviously, JJ returning to where he grew up, won 2 state championships in the state, and obviously you got the storylines. Caleb versus JJ McCarthy both have a ton of pressure onto them this season, and also JJ taking on Colson Loveland. I think that's pretty cool as well. But what was your say just initial reaction when that was announced?
Well, the schedule's always fascinating. I mean, it's kind of funny afterward looking back at like how consumed we get with it because we know all the opponents, we know this and that, but then you start seeing rumors like, oh, it could be this or it could be that. Oh, are we playing on Christmas? I think it's a fun game. I think it's a perfect Monday night game because it's probably not worthy of being like the Thursday night kick off the season game or even the Sunday night spot. But like you see a full week of action. Oh, Bears Vikings division game, team on quarterbacks. That's a fun Monday night game. So I think that's good. I think the parallels between the team, the story that just dropped, even adds more intrigue 100%. To it. I mean, that's probably something that gets brought up at some point. Like
probably during that week. I bet you some reporter will ask Caleb that question. Like, what do you think about taking on Kevin O'Connell? Try to segue it back to what he obviously had to say.
Yeah, the NFL does a good job of like finding storylines in the schedule, like JJ's return to Chicago, his first start, Ben Johnson's first game as a head coach against a team and defensive coordinator he's had a lot of success against, and Brian Flores, which you guys are familiar with, obviously. So I think it's going to be fun. I think the way the Bears schedule plays out, it's kind of a high pressure game to kick 100%. Off the season. You lose that game, just the storylines. JJ beats Caleb in his first start. Is Caleb going to figure it out? Oh, by the way, you got to go to Detroit now next week. So on a short week if you're Chicago. So that's sneakily a pretty big game for the Bears. I mean, for Minnesota as well. But I kind of look at it for the Vikings like that's kind of just a let it rip game.
It's kind of house money.
It's JJ's first start, so it'll be fascinating to see it play out.
Now I know just naturally if the Vikings do what you say, JJ has, he just goes through the rookie struggles his first career start, and he throws 2 picks, like 175 yards, and like he's specifically the reason they lose. I know the reaction will be insane, and especially if Sam Darnold, if we see him go ball out the day before with Seattle, people are going to be freaking out. But I definitely do agree. I think more pressure is on Chicago in this game. Obviously, there's pressure on everyone in week 1, but also week 1 games, it kind of feels like round of 64 in March Madness. All of these guys are bought in. There's no players that are, tapped out. Every team thinks that this is going to be their year, and I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
Well, and weird things can happen, too. There's not film on these teams. Yep. I mean, you could pick up tendencies from past years, but, like, there's no JJ film. There's no Caleb film in a Ben Johnson offense. Like, so you see a lot of kind of weird results in week 1. Not that I don't think either team winning this game would be weird. I mean, I think it opened as a pick 'em. I don't know where it's at now. I think it's maybe a point one way or the other. But it's going to be fascinating. Just the hype machine around both teams. I mean, the Vikings, I think, have a top 5 roster in the NFL. But what's the quarterback situation? Can they run the ball better? The Bears, there's always a lot of hype, and they usually don't live up to it, but I think there is reason for it this time around. So I can't wait. I think it's a great way to kick off the season. It's not like a over-the-top, like, oh, my God game, but it's like this is a good way to finish week 1 if you're just a general NFL fan.
And I think it'd be a great test for Vikings and the Bears' offensive line. Going against 2 good defensive lines, 3 new guys for each team on the interior this season, that's going to be a ton of fun to watch.
Defenses usually have the edge early in the year, too, especially new staff. So, like, I could see, even though the Bears are loaded offensively, it might take a few weeks for that offense to get going. So I would not be shocked if this is a classic Bears-Vikings, like, first team to 20 wins.
If you want a bold prediction, it will be rainy in Chicago that Monday.
Seeps and I were joking. It's always a weird weather game in Chicago, but even though it's early September, it's going to somehow be 52 degrees, blowing 25 miles an hour, and it's going to be a rainstorm. So get your ponchos ready.
Yeah, so we can talk about the rest of the NFC North here. Talk about the Lions and the Packers. Both of them obviously had very different but both interesting off seasons. I think we start off with Detroit here. Biggest storyline, obviously, you guys getting Ben Johnson. Huge addition for you guys, but also a huge loss for the Lions. Then Aaron Glenn going to the Jets. I think they're going to feel his loss. Maybe not as much as Ben Johnson, but probably damn near the same.
Yep.
I think you threw out this comparison about that one Eagles year when they lost both their coordinators, still won 11 games, but they really fizzled out at the second half of the year, lost to Tampa in the wild card round. Maybe that's on the table for Detroit this year.
Look, this is the risk of having a CEO head coach, which, look, I'm a big Dan Campbell guy. I think he's the guy who's turned around Detroit, deserves a lot of credit. But when you lose both coordinators in the same offseason, that's difficult to replace. And I do think it's pretty interesting that they went outside the building for offensive coordinator because they had a couple guys in the building that I thought could have been in the mix. I thought Antoine Randall might have been a guy. I thought Tanner Engstrand, who the Jets hired, he was their pass game coordinator. Glenn brought him to New York, so clearly him following Glenn was a sign that Campbell was not going to promote him. So that's pretty interesting. I thought Dan Orlovsky made a good point the other day. He said that what's not being talked about enough with Detroit is just how detail-oriented the offense was with Ben Johnson, which fires me up as a Bears fan. We've heard Ben and the players use that word a lot, like the details, the details, the details. It's going to be hard to replicate. Like, I think if you're Detroit, you're looking at this, okay, can the offense still be good, but we're probably going to teeter off a bit, like let's say 10%.
Yeah.
But can you make that up defensively with how many injuries they had last year? Because Glenn's a big loss, but if Hutchinson's back and healthy, which I don't know. That one video didn't look great, but we'll see. But a lot of other pieces went down too. If they can make up that 10%, maybe they're a similar caliber team. But we'll find out this year the chops of Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. I mean, if that pairing is legit, if they don't really skip a beat, then that's going to be pretty impressive to me because I kind of just assume that they'll still be good, but there's going to be a natural kind of learning curve early on in the season.
I think just personnel-wise, offensively, I think they'll still be all right, kind of like what you said. Maybe it's like, they're at 100% last year. Maybe this year they get 90% of that production, which will still be top 5 offense.
Talent alone. I mean, where's the weakness? The O-line's loaded. Say what you want about Goff. If he's kept clean, he's a top 10 guy. 2 great backs, a couple great receivers. You got a top 5 tight end. I mean, there's just no weakness.
But losing both those coaches, I mean, it can definitely impact the team. Maybe specifically early on in the season, maybe take them a couple weeks, maybe a month or two to really get going. But I know us Vikings fans, getting swept by Detroit the last 2 seasons. This was, these games are going to be high pressured this upcoming year.
I'm not shedding a tear for Detroit that they have to replace 7 coaches, especially considering, our entire lives they've been a joke, and they have 2 good years, and their fan base turns into a bunch of front runners.
Bears fans know it probably. Well, we got experience. Lions fans during the season, them just talking over the moon. But then this offseason, Lions fans are going at Bears fans for the Ben Johnson thing. Like,
it's like you guys just got to the table. Like this, you're not the Chiefs. Like I have a lot of respect for what Dan Campbell has built and what I think their GM's really good, Brad Holmes. But let's see what happens now with the coordinators gone and the rest of the division being pretty stout.
And then Harry and I, we share a take on the Green Bay Packers. And I've said this on the show countless times. I think they'll finish last in the NFC North. I know it's one of those things where it's like, all right, you can always chalk up the Packers to win, 10-plus games every single year. I think that changes this year, and I don't even know if it's so much about what they didn't do this offseason, more about I just think the Vikings got significantly better, the Bears got significantly better, and the Lions are still, top dog in the division. They swept it last year. So, I would not be shocked if they're a 4th-place team at 9-8, and let's just say the 1st-place team in the North is 11-6, and it's kind of all jumbled up there. But I could see maybe the Packers being the team that kind of gets squeaked out of the playoff picture.
If you want to get back to that pressure conversation, I mean, Jordan Love, they sit him for 3 years. And listen, when Rodgers goes back-to-back MVPs, when they drafted Love, I think the plan was sit him a year, then turn to him. But then Rodgers went nuclear, and it's like, well, are we really going to trade a Hall of Famer still playing like this? Probably not. His first year as a starter struggles for 2 months, but then plays unbelievable the last 2 months. They make him, I think briefly, he was the highest-paid quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
And then last year, he was fine. Now, he had a couple injuries. He sprained his knee in that Brazil game, and then I think he had an ankle issue later. So there were a couple things going on, but I thought he played like, I don't know, the 16th best quarterback in the league last year. He did not play to the level he did the second half of the first year, which he was never going to play. That was an all-time heater. I think he had 19 touchdowns and 1 pick the final 8 games. It was wild. But last year he played like a middle-of-the-pack starter, which is fine, but they're paying him to be one of the best in the league. So they need him to play better. And if he doesn't, to your point, I think the rest of the division has improved. So they'll still be a good competitive team, but could they win 8 or 9 games and be similar to last year instead of 11 just because, Darnold. The Bears are better now, and the Vikings roster overall is better. If JJ is just close to what Darnold was, that's a better overall team. And obviously Detroit, even if they dip a bit, there's a wide enough gap there that they're still probably better than Green Bay. So I'm not like, if you ask me today, am I picking Green Bay last? Like I don't know for sure, but I could see it. Like it would not shock me at all because I think they improved the least on paper.
Yeah.
And you got this Jair situation going on. Is he going to be there? I don't think their pass rush is that good.
Nope.
So, yeah, a lot of pressure on Jordan Love to get back to his ascending status.
Plus, they picked up Aaron Banks. They drafted a receiver for the first time in the first round since, 2002?
And they take another one. They've got like 8 receivers now.
Like, Love has everything on the table to be successful. You got still Matt LaFleur, which also, I promise you this, if the Packers win 7 games, there would be Packers fans out there asking him to be fired, and it would be ridiculous.
Please fire him, by the way.
Please
We
fire
will.
Matt LaFleur.
The Bears and Vikings fan here will support that. 2 years
100%.
ago, when Love was struggling to start that year, there was a Packers fan account on Twitter. I can't remember which one it was that said, "Fire Matt LaFleur. He is ruining Jordan Love." It's like ruining Jordan Love. We've never seen him do anything. This guy is winning 12 games a year for you. It's unbelievable. And Packers fans are ready to turn on this guy. Like, y'all had nothing but success for 35 years.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
I think my final thoughts on the North is I don't think we'll see, like, obviously the Lions get 15 wins, Vikings get 14. I think probably the division winner, if I had to guess, is either 12 or 11 this season. But also I think maybe the win total as a whole, as a division, maybe a little lower than the past year. But I think it will be an overall better division, mainly just because the Bears won't be one of the biggest jokes from a coaching staff perspective the previous season.
I think the Bears on coaching alone will probably win 2 more games, but then when you factor in the O-line additions, the
Loveland,
just
Burden,
natural year 2 growth from Caleb, even if it's not a huge jump, like 5-10% jump, like you add that up, like that's probably at least an 8-win team, if not 10. Like so, I'm with you. I kind of think 12 wins this division. But I also could see like the worst team being like 8 and 9. So I think it's going to be competitive. It would not shock me at all if we entered December and at least 3, if not 4 teams still have a chance to win the division.
That would be awesome. If we get to like week 15, it's like all 4 teams are still mathematically able to win.
Christmas game could be huge for your boys.
Christmas game is going to be a very stressful Christmas. Hopefully the Vikes don't ruin it. But Harry, I appreciate you coming on. We'll probably try to do this maybe 1 or 2 more times during the offseason, talk about the North. Obviously, there's any big-time news.
Next time Wickersham drops a nuke, we'll run this back. No, this was fun. You and I are passionate NFC North fans. I mean, we've even joked about doing like an NFC North podcast in the future. Who knows? Maybe that's something we explore. But good time, and we'll see how it goes. OTAs, you guys are
27th.
Okay,
so,
we're the 20th, so you guys have a little time. But next Tuesday, and keep on the lookout. I mean, Caleb's going to get asked about this situation. Yes. I kind of wonder if the Bears are going to put him up there and just don't even open it to questions. Just here's my statement on the situation. I'll be fascinated to see how that plays out because it's going to come up.
The Bears might need to give Carl Williams the Tyrese Halliburton dad treatment. Just you know
what's funny? So and we'll end after this. So there's a lot of opinions about Carl. I think 90 to 95% of them is just like a really passionate, caring dad. As a dad, like I can appreciate that.
Yes.
But you're probably not going to change how the NFL works. That's where you lose me a little bit. What's interesting, though, is that so all this stuff is from before he was even drafted. We heard nothing from Carl last year.
Yeah, that's
so I think for the most part, like he's staying out of affair. Like I don't think he's calling Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles during the season last year. So again, if Caleb plays well, that's not going to be an issue. But if he doesn't in this internet era, that's going to be something it's going to be one of those things where in week 6, ML football on Twitter, remember guys, Caleb never wanted to be a Bear. So it's that's part of it. It's fun. It could be annoying at times.
It's a soap opera of the NFL.
Yeah, like, it's the best reality TV show that exists. So it's a blast.
No, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys want more content like this, please just let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. And appreciate everybody for watching today's show. See y'all next time. Skol Vikes.